So you want to build some bigger, stronger shoulders? Well, you've come to the right place. In this video, we're going to cover 10 of the most scientifically proven, most effective shoulder workouts to help you add size, strength, and definition to your shoulders in record time. So we're actually going to demo these exercises for you, show all the key form points, and in this video, we're going to cover some sets and reps ideas, as well as how to keep your shoulders healthy as they're getting stronger so you don't suffer injuries to your rotator cuff and other small musculature around the shoulder. You're going to learn a ton in this video, so get out your pen and paper and let's dive on in. FitFatherProject.com. All right, so let's start talking about getting stronger, better looking shoulders and some of the best exercises. Before we do that, it's important to first look at the anatomy of the shoulder. When we're talking about shoulder workouts, the muscle we're really trying to grow is the deltoid, the muscle that sits on the cap of the shoulder right here. And the deltoid actually has three main heads. And it's important to know this because the exercise that we select in the ideal shoulder workout needs to hit each of these heads in the proper angle. So we have the anterior head of the deltoid, which is on the front side of your shoulder. We have the lateral head of the deltoid, which creates that cap and that width that a lot of people look at. Then we also have a rear head of the deltoid that sits in the back that makes sure you have the proper posture and rounds out that 3D look of the shoulders that so many of us want from exercise. Now we need to know there's three heads because we're going to divide up the best exercises based on which head they hit best in the rest of this video. And so we're going to construct a total body shoulder workout. And although I didn't mention this in the intro, as a little bonus for you being here on this video, at the very end, we're also going to talk about the best trap and neck exercises, which is essential for rounding out a nice set of delts because you want wide shoulders, but you also want a strong upper back and traps to really round that look out and keep your posture nice and healthy. So let's dive in, and we're going to start out by talking about the lateral head of the deltoid. Now, if you've been working out for some time or you're familiar with the gym and some of that stuff, then you've probably seen a lot of people doing lateral raises for their deltoid. And now lateral raises are really good, and they are an exercise that is scientifically proven to really work your shoulder in that lateral head of the delt. And the key is that with lateral raises, you can do these with either cables or with dumbbells. Now, the key with this though is this exercise can be a little bit dangerous on the front part of your shoulder because a lot of people recommend that you internally rotate your arm and you lead with your pinky up like this. The problem is that internal rotation can create a little bit of impingement in the front of the shoulder. So we want to do this exercise, but we actually want the shoulder to be externally rotated. And so what I suggest is we are going to incorporate lateral raises into our workout routine, but we want to do them with external rotation. So we're going to grab the dumbbells and we're going to hinge forward at the hip just a little bit, and then we're going to do the lateral raises with slight external rotation. That means that your palms are almost facing forward and we're opening up and back. That's still going to hit the lateral delt really well, but it's also going to keep your shoulder healthier, so we're not going to be risking impingement on the front part of the shoulder. But even though you see so many people in the gym doing lateral raises, it's actually not the best exercise for building big, strong, wide shoulders and hitting that lateral head. The best exercise is a barbell military press. And this is a standard barbell overhead press, except your back is nice and straight, your legs are planted firm on the ground, and you're driving that bar up and overhead. Now, the barbell military press has built more big shoulders than any other exercise, and a big mistake I see a lot of guys making in the gym today is they're focusing too much on these small isolation shoulder movements, like the lateral raise, and they're missing out on getting strong at these big shoulder movements, like the overhead presses with the barbell military. You gotta get a strong barbell military to have a great set of shoulders. It's something that is the cornerstone of the best shoulder exercise. And you're going to see as we go through the rest of this guide that the barbell military is actually research proven with EMG studies where they hook up electrodes and look at the activity of the muscle to be one of the best exercises for the anterior, lateral, and posterior deltoids. It's amazing. Now, the thing is, from these research studies, they've shown that a barbell military behind the neck press, where the bar actually is behind your neck and you're pressing overhead like that, leads to the greatest shoulder activation. But it's also the most dangerous position the shoulder can possibly be in. There's a lot of impingement risk when your shoulder's back and you're pressing really far behind your head. So even though a barbell behind the neck military press is probably the best shoulder exercise in terms of overall activity, it's a little dangerous, so I recommend you stay with a front press. So far when it comes to lateral head, we have the barbell military press and those lateral raises with either dumbbells or cables. But another exercise that is research proven to really hit the lateral delt and really just to be an amazing shoulder exercise is a face pull. Most people don't realize this. You may have seen guys do face pulls at the gym where they're opening up and it looks like it would hit the rear delt and in your upper back. And it does. It's one of the best exercises for improving your posture and your shoulder health because it does hit the rear delt and the upper back and the traps, but it also really works the lateral head. It has tremendous activity. You can just do this for yourself. Here in front of your computer or your phone, wherever you're watching this, take your hands and bring them back just like this. Now take your other hand and feel that lateral delt. You can tell that when you're pulling really back like this, it's super engaged. Face pulls are a staple of good shoulder training because they keep your shoulders balanced and pulled back, but they also really hit that lateral head. So the lateral head, those are our 3 exercises. The barbell military, we'll keep it in front of the head, not behind the neck, just for safety purposes. We'll do face pulls, and we will also incorporate some of those dumbbell lateral raises or the cable lateral raises, but again, we're gonna stay in external rotation. We're not gonna internally rotate and go like this. We're gonna stay externally rotated, hinge at the hip, and do lateral raises like this. So now let's move on to the anterior head. This is the front of the shoulder. And believe it or not, a lot of people overtrain their anterior delt because the anterior delt is so involved with all your other pressing motions. When you're working your chest, and you're doing dumbbell or barbell bench press of any angle, your anterior delt is playing a huge role. So it's not a muscle or head of the deltoid that needs a ton of direct work. And in fact, one of the best exercises for your anterior delt is the barbell seated military press. So if you're incorporating this as the cornerstone of your shoulder training, your anterior delt's getting plenty of work. So that is really what we want to do. And the other really great research-backed anterior delt exercise is actually the bench press to the neck. So bringing the bar down, benching to your neck. Some people call it a guillotine or guillotine press. It's a really good exercise, but it's also quite dangerous if you're not doing it right. So just know that there's risks and benefits to doing it to the neck press, but it really does work that front delt tremendously well. And it's something that you could incorporate at the end of your chest exercises. A lot of old school bodybuilders swore by these neck presses to really build a big chest and a good anterior delt. So it's something to think about. Another great exercise that's really a variation of the barbell military press that is research proven just destroy the front delts, that anterior head, is the standing dumbbell military press. So it's just kind of interesting. By moving away from the barbell and standing up instead of sitting and pressing overhead, we have to stabilize the shoulder and the spine really well, and that tends to engage the front delt a lot more as you're pressing. So it's a really good idea to incorporate some dumbbell training. So let's say you started your shoulder workout with that seated barbell military press. You might want to also include a standing dumbbell military press to kind of round out the workout, or just alternate between those two as core exercises. So those are the 3 exercises for the anterior delt. Again, that barbell seated military press, we're going to press in front of the chin though, the standing dumbbell military press, and the bench press to the neck. Another great exercise, but it does carry its risks with it. Now, to the posterior delt, the rear delt, the back of the delt, it's really important for so many reasons. One, aesthetically, it really rounds out your look. When you have a nice rear delt, it makes that shoulder look 3D and capped and really nice. But also from a postural perspective, it's so essential to get you in the right posture because so many of us do a lot of pressing motions and a lot of pulling motions with our lats, and that causes our shoulders to be internally rotated. And part of the rear delts, as well as the traps and the rhomboids, can bring that shoulder back into proper posture. So by training your rear delt, you're gonna have healthier shoulders. And if you've ever had impingement pain on the front of your shoulder, we gotta do more rear delt work. We gotta do more face pulls and some of the other exercises we're gonna cover. So the #1 exercise for your rear delt, based on the research, is some kind of reverse fly. Whether we're doing that with a machine or whether we're doing that with dumbbells, a reverse fly where you're bent at the hip and you're doing flies. Now, what's interesting from the research is that your hand position really does play a big factor into how well that posterior delt head gets hit. What the research shows is that actually getting your hands into internal rotation, where your palms are facing your body as you're doing these reverse flies, is what hits the rear delt the most. So they tested all different kinds of hand positions: supinated hand position, neutral hand position. Internal hand position is the best for hitting that rear delt. So it's a good thing to do at the end of your shoulder exercise workouts, where you're just finishing off with the 3 or 4 sets of the rear delt with dumbbells, bent over in internal rotation. So that's really great. So now that we've covered the different heads of the deltoid, I'd like to look at the traps because it really is kind of involved with this general shoulder complex. Now when it comes to building nice traps, there are a couple things that are essential to look at. The first thing is that the traps respond incredibly well to heavy exercise. I mean, the range of motion of the trap is not very large. I mean, it's a short range of motion, and things that we do with the trap are shrugs. Traps help bring our shoulders up into shrugs. So not surprisingly, the kind of exercises that are going to grow the traps are going to be shrugging type exercises. So the first one is a heavy barbell cheat shrug. So a lot of people make a mistake of grabbing really light dumbbells or not putting enough weight on the bar and doing like high rep light shrugs. That's just, as if you're a natural guy, that's not going to grow your traps. The traps respond incredibly well to being stretched. The stretching of the trap from holding heavy weight is what causes them to grow super well. That's why things like farmer's walks, where guys are holding big weights and they're walking down and back, actually really do help grow traps. We can take that perspective and do that with heavy barbell shrugs as a staple of our trap training, where we get a big bar loaded in front, we're focusing on that big stretch at the bottom, and we're shrugging up and squeezing those traps. Now, another great exercise that's totally underrated for building your shoulders and your traps is the rack pull, which is a deadlift roughly from the knee. And the great thing about a rack pull is you can load a shit ton of weight on the bar. Like, let's say you could only deadlift, let's say you can deadlift like 300 pounds or something like that. You could probably rack pull 450 plus pounds because you're pulling from the knee. And that allows you to overload the traps and get a lot of great activity in there. So the rack pull is the second great exercise. And do know too, it's gonna work your rear delts. It's gonna help all those upper back stabilizer muscles as you're pulling that weight up. It's gonna improve the overall health of your shoulders. So I do recommend rack pulls as well. And finally, another great exercise for the trap and the rear shoulder in general is something called a prone trap raise, which is probably the only exercise besides the dumbbell lateral raise where it's a good idea to go really light on. And this is going to work the lower portion of the trap in particular and help position that scapula down and back so that we don't have this rolling forward internal rotation impingement problem. Because my goal is not just to give you the 10 best shoulder workouts like we have in this video, but to make sure that you're keeping your shoulders healthy. So the prone trap raise, as you see me demonstrating here, is an amazingly effective exercise for working the posterior delt as well as those lower traps, and it's something you should do at the end of your workout. So these are some of the best exercises for your shoulders. And to round this out, I'm gonna give you some set and rep prescriptions in just a second. But what I wanna first talk about is some actual rehab and prehab exercises that will be really important for keeping your shoulders healthy. Because a lot of people run into shoulder problems when they're lifting. They get tendonitis in the supraspinatus tendon, in the biceps tendon, they get rotator cuff tears. And thankfully we can fix a lot of this stuff by one, training all heads of the deltoid in a balanced way, and two, doing some of these prehab exercises. So the first one I have for you is to get really good at practicing floor angels. So this is where you're lying on the floor, your low back is pressed down into the floor so it's flat, there's not a lot of space, and you're honestly like making snow angels on the floor. What this is going to do is train your scapula to move in a proper motion, and that shoulder will stay nice and back, and it's going to increase the range of motion in your shoulder, so when you go do these best shoulder workouts, you're going to be a lot healthier. This is something I recommend you do before you exercise. It's really tremendously helpful for your shoulder. Now, another great exercise is band pullaways with external rotation. This is going to really help warm up that rear delt and make sure that the small muscles of your back are being balanced out and they're not getting dominated by your chest and your lat and your anterior delts, which are all internal rotators. So banded external pulls are a really great warm-up exercise that you want to do with those floor angels to really open up the shoulder. And finally, I highly recommend that you do some what we call shoulder dislocations, but that kind of sounds bad, so I like to call them bar pass-throughs, where you take a broomstick or a stretch band or something like that, and you do these big passes overhead, and that's going to help increase your shoulder range of motion, so that when you're doing these best shoulder workouts, you're going to be healthy. So I like to think of this video like this. Now you have the prehab stuff to do before your shoulder workouts, and you have some of the best shoulder exercises that are actually proven by the research. So how do we put this together into a routine? Well, I like to think of it, without knowing your exact workout setup, as the amount of total volume that you should have on your shoulders in terms of direct work. Because I need you to know, anytime you're doing any kind of pressing work for your chest, whether it's the bench, dumbbell, incline, etc., it's working your shoulders. So the shoulders are a smaller muscle group. They don't need as much direct work as some of these bigger muscle groups. So as a rule of thumb, it's good to have around 6 to 12 sets per week of direct shoulder work on top of the other pressing that you're doing. So a good way to do this is to hit your shoulders twice per week with 6 sets. So 6 sets of direct work on one day, rest for 3 or 4 days, do 6 sets of direct work another day. So you can tack the shoulders on at the end of a chest workout. So it's a really good idea to have a push day where you're doing some pressing motions, then you're ending with shoulder direct work. How I would personally do that, if I had 6 sets on a given day of shoulder direct work, I would 100% dedicate 3 of those sets to a heavy barbell military press or a standing dumbbell military press. I would probably dedicate 1 or 2 of those sets to some kind of lateral raise, and 1 to 2 of those sets for some kind of posterior rear delt thing. Understanding that the barbell military press is so good at working the lateral head and the anterior head, you know that you're covering the bases. And at that point, what you have to do is just round out the shoulder with some face pulls or some rear delt work. So I would say dedicate at least half of that to some big pressing motion. The military press, whether it's standing or seated with the dumbbell or barbell, does not matter. That's really going to be the best way to train your shoulders. And also remember, we're going to do the prehab work to keep your shoulders healthy. So I hope you found this valuable. This is a big video, there's a lot in there, and I wanted to prepare this to be very comprehensive for you because there's so much content online and different exercises, and I want to give you an all-in-one video that you can reference that is research backed by the EMG studies and actually gives you some ideas on some routines that you can implement. Now, if you're looking for help on figuring out the best exercises based on different body parts, then I do recommend you download our best exercises cheat sheet. We go through 50 of the best exercises, we break it up by body part. So shoulders, we covered some of those today, but we also have chest, back, legs, calves, arms. So you get the full cheat sheet, and it's actually linked to different videos all across our channel, our Fit Father Project blog. So you have everything you need to design these optimal workouts for every body part. So you're not just building big shoulders, but you actually have optimized routines for your chest, your abs, your back, your legs, etc. We have that. We can send that cheat sheet straight to your email, and then we'll also ask you about some of your goals, and we have some amazing resources like meal plans and free workouts that we'll also send you. So if you want that, definitely click the links below this video in the description. Check out the blog associated with this. There's links all over the place to get that cheat sheet, and we'll follow up with you and really help you reach your goals. And I know it's going to help you a ton. So thank you for being here, my friend. I hope you found this video valuable. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Let us know. We put a lot of time and thought into these videos and we want to give you the best content possible, so your feedback means a ton to us. And also drop a comment below and let us know if you learned something or if you feel like a different exercise should have been included in this list. I'd love to hear that from you as well. And subscribe to our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. The button is right here where you can subscribe. We have hundreds of videos on the channel right now, and stuff on the best exercise tutorials, nutrition, meal plans, workouts, accountability, supplements. We have it all on this channel. We're a one-stop shop to help you live strong, long, and healthy for yourself and your family. We are the Fit Father Project. This is what we do, and we thank you for being here, my friend. Get that 50 best exercise cheat sheet, and I'll see you around the blog. I'll see you around our channel, and I'll talk to you very soon.